Nephew Adam got a free college ride with me, family demands I do the same for Alex, or we're cut off. I'm a 39-year-old woman, and I am very much not a kid person. I can tolerate children in small doses, but to be honest, I find them generally uninteresting and often annoying, and I've never wanted any of my own. I know my aversion to kids makes some people uncomfortable, so I've learned to fake friendliness when it's absolutely necessary. Still, I do my best to avoid any situation or relationship where I'm expected to interact with kids, and when I can't avoid it, I probably project an unmistakable "don't talk to me" aura. If a kid makes their way over to me, I'll try to redirect them or escape as quickly as possible. Being the youngest in my family, I managed to avoid dealing with younger kids for most of my life. But as my siblings and cousins started having children, I became the deadbeat aunt, as one cousin so graciously put it. They pushed relentlessly for me to be more involved with their kids. Eventually, I had enough. I snapped and told them exactly how I felt about kids in general. After that, the socializing began. The distance grew, and I stopped trying after I was hospitalized and only one person bothered to visit me or even call. The rest of the family couldn't be bothered. The exception has always been my older brother Michael. He never questioned or undermined my decision about kids. He was the only one who visited me in the hospital. He's never tried to force his son, Adam, on me, nor did he hold it against me that I didn't pay much attention to Adam until he was 14 years old. Even in the throes of parenting, Michael always made time for me, even if just a sporadic text or call. Now, Adam is the only nephew I really care about. Yes, I play favorites. I set up a $10,000 college fund for him. I take him out for memorable experiences every month and have given him some expensive gifts. His cousins, meanwhile, get nothing from me. I know this has caused tension with the rest of the family, but frankly, I've always been fine being the bad guy. I've tried to be discreet. Adam's been told to attribute the gifts to his dad, and I only told him about the college fund recently. But my latest gift is what caused a full-blown family meltdown. I live in a desirable part of a major city, and Michael and Adam live nearby. When Adam was accepted to his dream school in the city, he was thrilled, but the cost was out of reach for him. I offered him the opportunity to live rent-free with me, which would let him commute. My house is much closer to the campus, and actually afford it. Then came the complication. My other nephew, Alex, also got accepted into that same school. It's his dream school, too, but Alex comes from a disadvantaged background compared to Adam's middle-class family. He managed to win a partial scholarship, but it still isn't enough. When Alex heard about my offer to Adam, he asked, through Adam, to be included in the deal. I refused. I have nothing against Alex, but I haven't spoken to him in 15 years, and, honestly, we were never close. There's simply no emotional connection. Plus, letting him stay would come at a huge cost for me. I rent out my spare bedrooms and would lose around $38,000 in rental income over 4 years. That's already below the market rate in this city. Now, the rest of my family is furious. They've given me an ultimatum: either I extend the offer to Alex as well, pull the offer entirely, or Adam must reject it. If we don't comply, they say they'll cut off contact with Michael and Adam. They're calling Adam the golden child, never mind that he's an only child, claiming Alex deserves my help far more, and declaring they're tired of my blatant favoritism. They're not wrong about my favoritism, but honestly, I genuinely don't care about this so-called family anymore. We've basically been out of contact for a while. I never blocked anyone or had some dramatic blow-up, but the connection is already gone. I value chosen family over shared DNA, and in my mind, both sides played roles in reaching this point. As far as I'm concerned, aunts and uncles are allowed to have preferences. I don't see why Alex is entitled to my support just because he's in greater need. Sure, he could use the help, but his struggles aren't my responsibility. My only regret in this whole mess is that Adam is the one stuck with an impossible choice. Michael has stood by him, making it clear the decision is Adam's alone and refusing to pressure him either way. Adam and Alex aren't even close, but saying yes to my offer would mean losing connections with other family members Adam still values. Saying no means letting go of his dream school. I do feel bad that my generosity to Adam has forced him into such a difficult decision. Update 1. I saw a few questions about my situation that I wanted to address. He comes across as a gold digger and disingenuous, given he seemed perfectly content to keep his distance from me until there was something to benefit from. But the truth is, I simply don't feel pressed to form a bond with him. There's just no incentive on my end. It's like the casual nod you give the cashier at your local grocery store. Pleasant, but not a connection you need to pursue further. When it comes to people who didn't meet organically, often there's some kind of social lubricant that brings them together. Think about how aunt and nephew relationships are usually made possible because of the aunt's close ties to the family, but those ties don't exist for us. Any relationship with Alex in particular feels like it could become a liability, especially with certain relatives always ready to weaponize even the most mundane family bonds. That's exactly what they tried with Adam, and after seeing that fallout, I decided, hard pass. Adam, unfortunately, made a misstep that I can't fault him for. He was riding high after realizing he'd finally get to attend his dream school, after months of believing it wasn't an option. I've always tried to impress upon him the importance of secrecy, but up to this point, the idea of conditional love was foreign to him. Adam just assumed the best of everyone, especially family. It's a bitter lesson, one I wish he could have learned without so much collateral damage, but what's done is done. Some people suggested I should claim I have long-term tenants in the other rooms to stave off relatives' demands, but that simply wouldn't work. My family would insist I try to break any lease, risking heavy penalties, or worse, force Alex and Adam to share a room. And the tension would be unbearable. There's no way I'm sharing close quarters with Alex, and I know how awkward it would be, not just between Alex and me, but between Alex and Adam as well. My rental rates are already well below market value. Even if Adam had to get another place in the area, what I charge wouldn't be enough to cover anything comparable. Sure, I could raise rates to match the local market, but how would I explain that to new tenants, especially when they'd see Adam paying so much less? And frankly, I refuse to hike up rents out of principle. The way landlords and private equity firms are squeezing the housing market already disgusts me. The only reason I rent out my rooms is because otherwise, they'd just be sitting empty. Offering them at a steep discount is my way to balance pragmatism with my values. Honestly, I wanted a smaller house, but none of the smaller options met the handful of non-negotiable requirements I had. As I've already acknowledged, everyone played a part in the decisions that left me with no option but to cut contact. I didn't fit the mold they wanted me in, and they couldn't accept that. I'll admit I stopped attending kid-centric events, but I repeatedly tried to reach out and arrange adult-only hangs. Hell, I would have settled for the occasional text or phone call. That's all Michael and I managed, and somehow, that worked until Adam turned 7. As for the hospital incident, it wasn't so much the particular hurt, it was the final nail in the coffin. Our relationship had been unraveling for a while, and that moment just confirmed any hope of reconciliation was dead. I'd already been aware things were falling apart long before it happened. Update 2. As Michael, his wife, and I were preparing ourselves to sit down with Adam, to walk him through his options, carefully lay out the pros and cons, and really help him understand the long-term effects of whatever choice he made, I felt ready to reaffirm our support and gently nudge him toward what we all hoped would be the right path. We wanted this to be a moment of unity, something constructive. But it turns out, none of that happened the way we planned, although not for the reason we'd hoped. Adam called me yesterday, his voice raw and clearly shaken. He'd learned that his cousins had been saying some deeply cruel, nasty things behind his back, things they knew would cut right at his insecurities. It wasn't some petty gossip, it was personal, intentional, and downright vicious. Whatever chance there might have been for him to make peace with Alex evaporated in an instant. The prospect of reconciliation was off the table, the wounds were too deep now. I still feel that it's important for us to talk to Adam, not just about his options, but about how to process the betrayal and pain these comments have caused him. Maybe the original purpose of the conversation has changed, but the need for it is more urgent than ever. He shouldn't have to shoulder this alone, not when we can help him pick up the pieces. But, as much as this situation hurts, it doesn't mean the world is all doom and gloom. In a strangely satisfying twist, I recently got a call from a friend of a friend who happens to work as an interviewer for a job that one of those venomous cousins applied for. About a week ago, I got a casual text. This interviewer had noticed our unusual family name and wanted to know if I had any tea on the applicant. I wasn't listed as a reference, the question just came up because we look alike. At the time, I honestly had nothing to say, because I didn't really know that cousin well enough. But in light of recent events? Well, guess who's about to get a highly cautionary call about their character? Did I mention that this job is in an ultra-niche industry with basically one employer per region? That's right. I'll say it, I am a petty queen, and I absolutely own it. Update 3. Adam is staying with me for college. I assumed we both understood this was the plan, but yes, it's official. After everything that happened with his cousins, Michael, his wife, and I sat down with Adam to help him process it all. We reassured him over and over that none of this was his fault. He's still carrying some sadness, but I can see he's doing better with the support around him. As for my own plans, I picked up the phone and called that acquaintance regarding my cousin and the job. Apparently, my cousin had been locked in close competition for the position, and there was one final interview, a hassle for my acquaintance to arrange. They actually thanked me for giving them an excuse to cancel. I couldn't help myself, the petty side of me started browsing similar jobs in the area. Unlike the one I just blocked my cousin from, these alternatives weren't unionized, looked poorly managed, and the pay was a sharp drop. The best part was telling Adam about it. His whole face lit up. Turns out the job site my cousin lost would have been just a 10-minute drive down the road, for Adam. When I shared this with his mom, she scolded me for being childish, but the expression on her face told another story. Unless something out of the blue happens, this should be the final chapter to all of this. Update 4. So much for final chapter. The universe heard me and said, bet. 2 mornings after Adam moved his first load into my place, a city inspector knocked on my door with a clipboard and an apologetic smile. Someone had reported me for operating an illegal boarding house. According to the complaint, I had multiple unrelated young men living in unsafe conditions, which would have been hilarious if it weren't such a lazy reach. The report actually included Adam's name and a description of my house. I showed the inspector my permit, my floor plan, my occupancy sign-off, and the rent ledger that proves I'm under the cap. He walked through, checked alarms and egress, complimented my labeling on the breaker box, and closed his notebook. He even said, honestly, this is tidier than my office. 15 minutes, and he was gone. Case closed. I had a petty itch I refused to ignore. Our city has a public records portal. I typed in the case number and, surprise, the anonymous complainant wasn't anonymous. It was submitted through my sister's email, the one she uses for PTA forms and Christmas wish lists, complete, with a phone number I still have memorized. I took a screenshot. I sat with it. Then I sent her exactly 5 words, I passed. Don't do this again. She didn't reply. But a cousin did, 3 hours later, in the family group chat I haven't looked at since 2019. It was a novella about fairness and betrayal. I didn't read it. Michael did. He called me, voice shaking, and asked if he could handle it his way. I said yes. I don't know what he said to them, but the group chat died, radio silence since. The out of the blue theme continued that night. Alex showed up at my door with a duffel bag, damp hair from the drizzle, looking like someone who'd been shoved into a decision he didn't make. He said his mom told him I'd come around and there'd be a bed for him. He was embarrassed as he said it. He also said he wasn't part of the report, that he didn't know about it until after it was sent, and that he'd told her to leave me out of it. I believed him, the timeline checked out, and he didn't have the posture of a liar. He asked for just a few nights. I told him no. Firmly. Kindly. And then I grabbed my keys. We drove straight to campus. It's a massive machine, that place, but if you know which door to knock on, it will move. There's an emergency support desk with a sleepy grad student and a binder thicker than a brick. I sat in the chair and let Alex tell his own story, family pressure, financial gap, the scramble. He did fine. They got him a cot in a vacant RA room for the week, a dining hall pass, and an appointment with financial aid in the morning. I sent a text while we waited. A friend of mine works in Ree's life. It turns out someone had just vacated mid-semester for medical reasons. There was a community assistant slot with room covered if he could pass the background check and survive the week of training without panicking. The catch? No guarantees and no family drama on premises. He nodded. I believed him again. I didn't open my wallet. I opened my calendar. I sat with him while he drafted his aid appeal and edited for clarity like I would on a junior colleague's grant proposal. I gave him language, not money. Precision, not promises. When he finally exhaled and thanked me, I told him exactly what I was willing to be for him. Not his aunt, not his home, not his safety net. A competent adult who knows which lever to pull. He said that was enough. Adam met us at the student center with sandwiches. He hugged Alex like they were the age they are instead of the roles people keep trying to assign to them. They're not close and might never be. But they sat and ate and made plans to share a bus pass and walk to class together for the first week. I watched them and felt that weird mix of pride and irritation that only shows up when your boundaries are intact and your heart hasn't calcified. It didn't cost me anything to sit there and be useful. It also didn't change my mind about my house. The morning after, financial aid did what financial aid does when a kid shows up with a paper trail and a coherent ask. They found him a one-time emergency grant to bridge his first semester, with a condition: he had to secure campus employment by the following Friday. The Ree's life offer solidified by noon. He texted me a thumbs up and a photo of his temporary ID tucked into a lanyard. I replied with a period. He got it. As for my sister, she popped up with an email that sounded like a performance review. She attached a screenshot of my text as if it were incriminating and wrote the words hostile and retaliatory. I forwarded it to my attorney friend, who drafted a neat little response that used defamatory and harassment in all the right places without breathing hard. We didn't send it. We didn't need to. Sometimes the unsent letter is the only one worth writing. And because karma appears to be a subscriber in this saga, I found out yesterday that the cousin whose job I blew up tried to spin a tale to their would-be employer about family sabotage. The hiring manager happens to sit on a board with one of my clients. I didn't say a word, I didn't have to. The manager just mentioned over coffee, almost amused, that in a people business, we read people. Then he paid my invoice and asked if Adam wanted a part-time gig doing inventory on weekends. 10-minute drive. Adam said yes, obviously. If there's another twist coming, I won't pretend I can predict the weather. But I do know this: my door isn't a revolving one, my spine works fine, and apparently, I'm very good at finding the lever that makes a jam machine move. That's enough, for Adam, for Alex, and for me. Update 5. I thought the dust had settled. Then the mail tried to move without us. I have informed delivery. A grayscale preview popped up in my inbox at 7:12 a.m. A USPS move validation letter addressed to Adam, forwarding to my sister's house across town. That letter only exists to ask, "Are you sure?" Someone was very sure on his behalf. I put on shoes and walked to the post office with the image pulled up and IDs in my hand. Counter clerk, supervisor, then the station manager who knows me because I once brought them cookies when they fixed a mail hold in a snowstorm. They canceled the change, flagged the originating form, and gave me a case number for the Postal Inspection Service. Federal, not neighborhood. I texted my sister 2 words, "That's federal." Then I put Adam on a P.O. box and watched the clerk slide the tiny brass key across the counter like we were arming a bank vault. When I got home, I pulled the label maker out of the drawer and stuck his name to the inside of our front door mailbox anyway. Belt, suspenders. If the morning was federal, the afternoon was financial. A woman from the university's financial aid office left a polite voicemail asking for me to confirm the support arrangement for Alex reflected in a signed statement from Aunt, my name. New to me. The scan they emailed back had my name spelled correctly, my signature spelled like a drunk raccoon, and a sentence that said I'd be covering more than half of all living expenses for 4 years. I called them, told them no, explained the situation in simple sentences, and asked them to annotate the file. They were already there, verification hold, compliance looped in, meeting scheduled with the Dean of Students for a dependency override review based on family conflict. They didn't need money. They needed documentation and an adult in the room who could tell the difference between help and harm. I didn't go to the meeting. I made sure Alex had someone from Re's life he trusted in the chair next to him, and I sent him the kind of bulletproof language that gets a decision moved from maybe to yes without grinding anyone into dust. Facts, dates, no adjectives. He came out shaken but upright. They put the override through by end of day. No fake signatures required. No parent required either, for purposes of aid. He texted me a photo of the letter on university letterhead like it was a medal. I replied, good. He sent back a chest pawn emoji. He's learning. I wish that had been the end of the games. It wasn't. Campus police knocked on Alex's door the next night for a welfare check requested by a concerned aunt who reported coercion and unsafe housing. The CA on duty knew exactly where that script came from and exactly who had been practicing it. He handled it by the book and then called Alex's Re's life boss, who called me, who didn't have to say much of anything. The dean's office issued a no-contact directive to Alex's mom regarding all university offices and residences. If she wants to speak to anyone at that school, she goes through one email address now. They're very good at building a paper fence when you hand them the posts. My house wasn't immune either. At 2 a.m, the door camera caught someone trying to shimmy an envelope under the door with a butter knife. Rain. Bad lighting. Then her face for exactly 2 seconds. The envelope was a printout of my original text. I passed. Don't do this again, with a sticky note that said hostile plus retaliatory in block letters like a 7th grader's book report. I forwarded the clip to Michael and to a non-emergency line. An officer came by the next afternoon, watched it twice, and suggested a trespass warning. I signed it and had it served. The officer used the phrase civil standby like a lullaby and left. I didn't feel triumphant or anxious. Just, tidy. If there was any question about where Michael stood, he removed it. He swung by after work with a paper grocery bag that held nothing but a roll of painter's tape and 2 dumbbells. He set the tape on my table, hugged Adam, and carried the dumbbells downstairs. If they want to call, they can call me, he said over his shoulder. I don't know what private hell he's slogging through with our mother and sister. I know he doesn't bring it up my steps. The rest of it, for once, is uneventful in exactly the way I like. Adam started at the inventory job and came home smelling like cardboard and rubbing alcohol, happy in a way that has nothing to do with me. He's up before his alarm, washes his own coffee mug, and texts me when he's going to miss dinner so I don't set a place. I found an empty cereal bowl in the sink once and slapped a piece of painter's tape on the backsplash that said systems apologies. He laughed, rinsed the bowl, and taped the note to his bedroom door. He's quick. Alex survived CA training with only one frantic text about a fire panel. He passed the background check and has a small room with a view of the loading dock. He's got a lanyard, a duty phone, and a schedule that looks like someone took his week and cut it into strips. He asked, tentative, like he knew the answer might be strange, if he could list me as his emergency contact. Not Aunt, not anything with a title attached. Just a number to call if he got knocked sideways. I told him yes. He sent back, thank you for the lever. It is a weird relief to be seen for exactly what you're willing to be. Somewhere in there, a certified letter arrived addressed to me from the city's Human Rights Office. The complaint alleged discrimination in housing on the basis of familial status. The investigator's email was friendly and direct. I answered the way you answer a question you've studied for: owner-occupied exemption, documentation of my permits, copies of rental ads that show the rooms were leased for the relevant months, and a timeline that makes it obvious this isn't about housing, it's about me not being an ATM. The case closed in 4 business days. The letter used the phrase insufficient evidence to proceed. It also included a 1-paragraph warning about false statements under penalty of perjury. I didn't forward that part. I filed it next to the occupancy sign-off in a folder labeled with the date and a neutral noun. That's how I like my paper: in order, in reach, inescapable. If you're waiting for the grand gesture, there isn't one. I didn't cut any checks. I did buy a small fireproof box and slid it under Adam's desk with no commentary. Passports and social security cards don't belong in nightstand drawers or ghost moves to other people's houses. He opened it, placed his documents inside like he was setting a watch, and locked it. The click was a good sound. I don't know if the family has another angle left. Probably. People who make messes for sport usually have a few tricks in their pockets even after the show ends. But the machine keeps moving the same way every time. You figure out which rules are real, you follow them hard, and you don't confuse proximity with permission. My door is still not a revolving one. My spine still works, and every time someone tries a lever on me, I write down where it is and what it does. It makes it easier to reach for the right one when it's my turn. Update 6. The postal inspector called first. Calm voice, recorded line, questions that were really statements. Yes, I filed the change cancellation. Yes, I know who tried to move Adam's mail. Yes, I have the screenshot, the case number, the video of the butter knife envelope. He thanked me, said the form originated from an IP they could tie to a specific address, and that a written warning would be issued. Further action depends on cooperation, he added, the way a good teacher says show your work. 10 minutes later, I printed the email and slid it into a sleeve behind the cabinet door where I keep stamps. Mail lives with mail. Then a man in a windbreaker handed me a stack of papers at 8:43 p.m. a temporary restraining order request. My sister, seeking protection from harassment and retaliation. She attached my 5-word text like it was a smoking gun and a photo of my house from Zillow like it could prove intent. Hearing date, 7 days. I called my attorney friend. We didn't write a manifesto. We built a binder. Tabs, door. Mail. Aid. Campus. We added the inspection pass, the no contact directive from the dean's office, the trespass warning, the voicemail from financial aid about my forged support letter, the postal case number, and a 1-page timeline that used nothing but verbs and dates. I slept. The kind you earn by putting the right paper in the right place. Court was a waiting room of people who were sure feelings could be notarized. The judge took our matter after lunch. My sister spoke first. She trembled and said retaliatory 3 different ways and used my calendar screenshots like talismans. When it was my turn, I didn't explain. I handed the clerk my binder and answered questions like deposition practice. Did you threaten her? No. Did you contact her outside of responding to illegal conduct? No. Is this your signature on Exhibit C? No. Is this a video of your sister pushing an envelope under your door at 2:03 a.m.? Yes. The judge flipped pages, stopped at the dean's no contact directive, and set the binder down like a gavel. I'm denying her request, she said. I'm granting yours. 3 years, no contact, no proxy contact, a clean 100 yards between her and my front step. The bailiff served her on the spot. I walked home and put a copy under a lemon magnet on my fridge because small, bright reminders are better than big, loud ones. Campus didn't need the court to keep up. Alex's CA boss called to let me know his mother showed up at his building and tried to check on her child by pushing past a desk attendant half her size. The no contact directive became a trespass notice. It reads like a hallway sign, simple sentences, clear arrows. She tried to talk her way around it. The officer wrote, notice explained. Subject acknowledged understanding. It's astonishing how quiet things get when every door you're tempted to rattle comes with a keycard and a log. On the home front, Adam got a letter no one expects at 19 unless someone's been playing fast and loose with forms. Thank you for creating your FSA ID, it said, addressed to him at my sister's house. He didn't request one. We sat at the table with his laptop and the envelope, and I watched him learn a new muscle, slow is faster. He called the number, passed the verification gauntlet, put a verbal password on the account, and asked them to lock any third-party changes without a live agent and him on the line. Then I took him to the IRS office 2 neighborhoods over with his passport in a cheap plastic sleeve. He walked out with an IP pin and a look I recognized from people who finally figured out which drawer their life should live in. We stopped for coffee on the way back. He paid. That mattered more than he knows. Michael, meanwhile, has been doing the kind of quiet work that leaves no fingerprints but a lot of relief. He got our mother on speaker in his car and let her say every version of family like it could bend policy. He didn't argue. He told her what the judge signed and what would happen if it was ignored. Then he texted me a screenshot of his call log, 4 minutes, 21 seconds. Boundaries in under 5 minutes feels like a personal record for our bloodline. Because the universe likes symmetry, the cousin whose job evaporated tried to send a letter to Adam at his new P.O. box. It was a half apology, half explanation that used misunderstanding as a tarp. Adam brought it home, set it on the counter, and asked, do I have to respond? I said no. He slid it into the fireproof box with his documents and locked it. We both listened to the click. He went to his room and made himself a sandwich. He didn't ask me to fix the letter. He didn't need me to. Progress comes in dumb little steps like that. Alex had his first real crisis on duty, a fire panel in migraine mode and a freshman who thought propping a door with a sneaker made him an engineer. He texted me panel won't reset and then, 5 minutes later, found the bypass and the resident. He wrote the incident report the way I taught him to write everything now, facts, times, what he did, what he didn't do. His supervisor forwarded it with good instincts in the subject line. He sent me a pawn emoji again. I replied with a period. He didn't need a parade. He needed proof he could move. My sister tested the order once, a block number, a 30-second voicemail that started with I know I'm not supposed to, and then tumbled down a flight of stairs into this is your fault and we could have been a family. I saved it, emailed it to the officer who handled the trespass warning, and went back to chopping vegetables. She got a call. I didn't. The restraint order has teeth if you feed it paperwork. I did one thing with money, and I won't pretend it wasn't deliberate. I sent a donation to the university emergency fund that bridged Alex's first semester with a 1-line note, for any student who shows up with documentation and a plan. Not earmarked for him. Not a life raft for a specific last name. Systems, not favors. A week later, an auto-generated thank you came back with an invoice number and a tax line. I printed it, hole punched it, and put it behind a tab labeled receipts. I like knowing which levers I'm greasing. At home, nothing dramatic is happening, which feels miraculous. Adam's learning the cadence of early classes and late shifts. He texts me when he'll be out past 11 so I don't deadbolt the wrong door. I labeled it recycling because apparently we live in a city of 6 nearly identical blue bins. He laughed when I taped cardboard is not a lifestyle above the can and then broke down a box without being asked. We're building a small, boring life, which is what every machine hopes for after emergency mode. If there's a next move from the people who keep trying to turn me into a vending machine with a pulse, I can't see it. What I can see, a stack of orders with signatures on them, a campus that knows exactly where to route noise, a post office that called me ma'am and meant we've got this, 2 college kids who can call me if something breaks, and a list of levers that gets shorter every week, because we've already pulled them. My door still isn't revolving. My spine still works. And on the corner of my fridge, under the lemon magnet, there's a piece of paper that says I don't have to explain that to anyone ever again.